So yeah, I believe most of you guys know what's about to happen to this little boat. A long time ago, I actually did a battle. I think what was a battle Tyra. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. And since then, I always wanted to do something very silly with the Rorqual. Although at the time we didn't have the Rorqual in the game, but this ship has been in the game for quite a while now, and I guess it's time for me to put my hands on this thing, and I'm very interested to see what the Rorqual can do. I have seen some very silly builds out there that kinda inspire me to do what I'm about to do with this ship, but I'll go cover most of the ideas, most of the builds, and I think it will be very interesting. After all, this is the first time that you see me in a industrial ship, although even the industrial ship in my hands is a combat ship in a way. But let's first take a look at the ship stats. Now this thing has a very long list that I'll try to cover as quickly as possible. So the roll bonus, plus 400% Entosis Link activation time, minus 90% jump fatigue duration, plus 5 warp stability, jump drive available, industrial modules can be fitted, can operate exhumer drones, mining foreman burst can be fitted, can fit command bursts, plus 50% command burst effective range, main weapons cannot be fitted. Okay. Industrial command burst per level will give you plus 5% mining foreman burst strength, plus 3% shield command burst strength, minus 10% industrial module fuel consumption, minus 5% industrial module activation time, plus 25% drone damage, plus 20% drone effective hit points. This is all per skill level, by the way. Capital industrial ship command burst will give you plus 75% remote shield booster boost amount, plus 75% remote shield booster optimal range, plus 5% cargo hold capacity, plus 5% ore hold capacity. Advanced exhumer drone technology bonus will give you plus 5% exhumer drone mining amount. So yeah, overall obviously a mining ship, although it has some bonuses on drone damage, which will be interesting. The Rorqual has 5 drone slots, 3 high slots, 3 medium slots, 8 low slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs. The cargo hold capacity is, as expected, really good. It has a decent fuel capacity as well. 910,000 hit points. The Rorqual is primarily a shield tank. 67,000 gigajoule is the capacitor. Recharge time 1920 seconds. Recharge rate 87.89. Maximum lock targets 8. Signature radius 9.6 kilometers. Scan resolution 75 meters. Sensor strength is 115. Flight velocity 85 meters per second. Warp speed is 1.5 AU per second. It is to be expected that this thing is extremely slow. Okay, well, overall pretty interesting stats, and now it will be time to take a look at the ship's fit. I always thought that mining ships were a bit more difficult to build, but in the end it wasn't as bad as I thought. Now the Rorqual has some interesting special modules and special modes that I will show. So I have capital remote shield boosters in the high slots. After all, the ship has a bonus on them, and they can be very useful in a mining fleet if you get jumped. A command burst module that increases the performance of the shield and shield boosters. Overall, a pretty solid module to have. A mining foreman burst. This increases the mining performance of your drones of the fleet. A very useful module for a big mining fleet. Here you can take a look at the stats. Overall pretty solid. And I have one scrambler in the third slot, although you can basically use any other module that you find useful. I did not know what to put there, so I just slapped a scrambler and have or heavy exhumer drones. These are the primary drones for the Rorqual. They have a lot of mining amount. After all, they are quite big. They have a 50-kilometer range, but overall they should perform really well. And of course, make sure that you have combat drones, just in case. 50-kilometer range is pretty solid, so you should be able to send drones to most of the targets, but again, be careful because there are ships that can point you from over 50 kilometers away. And later I will show you the DPS on this thing. Triple adaptives, dual boosters, dual batteries, and this one special module, Seal Industrial Enhanced module. So this will basically transform the ship a little bit, and it makes the Rorqual change shape. You will see what I'm talking about later. However, the stats that you get from this are amazing. 163% extra mining, 375% extra drone DPS, 250% extra drone effective hit points, and 150% extra shield booster performance. And you also have the Sea-Lion Industrial Command module, which is a bit different. And you have the Beaver Industrial Core. This is for the Orca, I believe, so I might not be able to I can't place that module in the Rorqual. Okay. So I'll show you both of the modules in action, because I think it's quite interesting to see what they can do. Mining Foreman Burst 150%, Mining Foreman Range 150%, Drone Mining Amount 281%, Drone DPS plus 125%, Drone effective hit points plus 125%, Shield Booster Boost Amount 90%, and Remote Shield Booster Activation Time minus 40. So eventually you want to have both modules, not at the same time of course, but you want to have both modules so that we can swap between them. The red one is good for, I guess, more of a solo way because of the extra shield booster performance. We can kind of get you can kind of get Dreadnought level of shield booster performance in the Rorqual with this module, while the blue one is good if you are in a fleet, but eventually I would say both seem to be working good in a lot of scenarios. Now as for the rigs, I have tank shield rigs in the combat rigs, and well, here you can take a look at the stats. This thing has a lot of shield, and I have some mining rigs in the engineering rig section. Surprisingly, the mining rigs are not in the combat rig setup, they are in the engineering rig slots, so that's one thing that's a little bit different for these ships. Now this is the cheaper build, although I know if you're flying a Rorqual then you probably have a big ESC wallet, so you can do the cheap setup, which is this one, also works real well, but you can also do something a bit more expensive and go with the integrations, although I myself have basically almost stopped using integrations. Most of my ships nowadays have only the normal rigs. From the combat ships to most of my ships are actually combat ships, but from the PvP ships, from the PvE ships, all have very cheap rigs. The only ship that has integrations is my Revelation. So yeah, you can do the integration layout, but it's not necessary. I personally, like I mentioned before, I basically stopped using integrations. So yeah, but it's very interesting to see what type of monster I can create, and let me quickly try and borrow some integrations from some of my other ships here. Okay, sorry for the, well, that was actually a smooth cut. Okay, I was caught off guard here. I had to borrow the integration rig from one of my other ships. Okay, let me add the rig. I have a lot of rigs, so yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit messy. They need to they definitely have to improve the hangar stuff as quickly as possible, because yeah, finding the right rig is usually a bit difficult. Okay, and all 3 integrations are now installed. 4 P60 integrations for maximum possible tank, and will be interesting to see how this thing works when all the modules are active. Now the Rorqual has a lot of shield. It's it's a capital ship, so it is to be expected. Now the implant, if you are a miner, then you want to go with the mining enhancements. It's a pretty interesting implant. And if you like DPS, well, the bombard tactics is going to be the way to go. So, the mining enhancement. This implant is interesting for a lot of reasons. Now here you can take a look at the skill description. However, the thing that I would say it's most interesting about this implant is that it makes your Rorqual turn into a bloody nuclear bomb. Yes, the mining implant has the option to do damage to surrounding ships based on a certain percentage of hull that you have, and it does explosive damage. So if your ship gets destroyed and if you have the implant active, your ship will be a nuclear bomb. And we used to joke saying that in a big fleet battle you will see like a bunch of Rorquals rushing towards your positions while the dreadnought fleet is shooting at them, while your logistic ships will be actively trying to repair the enemy Rorqual to prevent it from blowing up, because if they blow up it's basically like a nuke going off. So was a pretty hilarious thing. I mean, it still is a hilarious thing. Basically, it kills the cargo, it kills the loot, but it does damage to the surrounding area. And all of the stats of the implant are okay. They seem interesting. Level 15, level 30 is again more than enough. Don't go above that. It's pointless to go 30 plus. That's based on my experience with all of these implants and based on all tests that I did. Level 15 and level 30 for all of the implants were just fine. It was okay. My barrage implant is 33 and I feel robbed for getting the implant to 33. But yeah, if you want to enhance mining, then I guess the mining implant is definitely the way to go. I mean, it's the only mining implant that we have, so yeah, definitely the way to go. And it can also serve a very hilarious purpose in PvP as well. Basically creates a nuclear bomb out of your ship. Who knows, perhaps one day the bomb Rorqual idea will be utilized. I haven't seen it yet,
Undocking.
but it would be very funny if it gets utilized in one way or another. Or perhaps, you know, some of the older ships might be even a better option. Some of the cheaper mining ships like the Covetor or Covetor 2. Alright, well, let me go to that asteroid field there, so that I can show you the active ship stats, and I also want to show you how the ship changes when you activate that special module. Overall, the Rorqual is definitely one of the most highly detailed ships in the game. There is a lot of moving parts that yet you don't see, but they are there. I mean, you will see them when I click the industrial mode. And I find it hilarious because you get that extra DPS when you click on the industrial mode on this ship. 5.7 million hit points, 84, 87, 91 and 92%. Well, definitely a tanky boat. Difficult to blow up. Now I don't know how many Rorquals are currently in the game. I have seen one or two myself, but that was when I was doing exploration. Okay, let's go into the industry mode and just look at the way that this thing transforms. And there you go. This is how the Rorqual looks in the industrial mode. A very interesting little boat. Kinda looks like a force auxiliary. Okay, let me launch the drones. 4023 per 45.5 seconds. Okay, that's interesting. Drones are launched. Now I think these drones work when you just tap on them. They automatically start mining everything that is nearby, which is a interesting mechanic. Yeah, looks like they automatically go and butcher all the rocks, so me locking the asteroids is a bit pointless, but you know, my job is to show you how things work. 5028 with the implant active, that's the 25% increase. The tank is 6.5 million, 86, 89, 92 and 93% with the command burst module active, and you can also activate the secondary when needed if you have the implant on 45. If you don't, well, that's okay, because you don't have to have the implant on level 45. The stats on the drones look okay. 39,000 hit points, that's a lot of hit points. I think the combat drones will have a lot more hit points, so the drones on this thing are very tanky. Basically it's like shooting at a battlecruiser. That's how tanky the drones are, and I think that's a very interesting thing. So, and this is how the Rorqual basically looks when mining. Now you will not be mining in low sec. Don't mine in low sec. I'm just showing you how the thing works. So yeah, don't eat your Rorqual in low sec. These ships are mostly ships for big corporations, big alliances in their system, home region in deep nullsec, where they can mine with protection and where they can mine undisturbed. Now it's still a risk to fly them, because when you activate the industrial mode, you basically can't warp. You have 100 points and the ship is immobile, it doesn't move. So that's something that you should keep in mind. And now, in a moment I'll be swapping to the combat drones just to show you the DPS and overall the stats of the drones. Now the DPS on this thing is not going to be that impressive if you are primarily a mining Rorqual. And this thing, I mean, it's a mining ship, so it should definitely not be used for combat. But you know me, I like to do some silly stuff. And I like to test out ships in, you know, various scenarios. So later I will show you a DPS build that I would definitely do not recommend that you try out on your Rorqual, because it's a mining ship, a very juicy one, and everyone wants to kill one. So yeah, definitely not a good idea to hit a Rorqual around with a DPS build. But But it's going to be very hilarious to see what type of DPS I can get out of this thing. I'm trying to contain my laughter here because, you know, it's just it's funny. It's funny to me that I sat down in a Rorqual and that I plan to do a DPS build on this thing. 2,600 DPS with offense, drones, 49,000 hit points. You know, the stats are actually really good. The stats are solid for a ship that's primarily for mining. Okay, let's jump in the normal mode. Now, when you turn off the special mode, you have to wait for the cycle to finish. And when the cycle finishes, then you can basically warp. And it will be interesting to see how the ship transforms back. I mean, as you see, this ship has a lot of moving parts, and I honestly like how it looks. Now, my apologies for the ship flickering. That's driver issue for some reason. That the drivers just don't like the ship. I don't know why it happens, but yeah, Vulkan drivers are not. The API is not really working well nowadays for some reason. And well, now the ship is back in the, well, almost back in the normal form. The flickering is kind of pissing me off, so my apologies for that. And the Rorqual is back in the original position. Very nice. Let's dock and let me show you a bunch of other builds. But first, let me also show you the Ceylon industrial module. This one works a little bit different. It will give you less DPS. This module is, I would say, it feels like it's meant to be used more in a fleet. I guess in a fleet, mostly because of the remote shield booster, which, by the way, the Rorqual can be a very good ship with remote shield boosters. Can easily support the fleet if they get jumped. Now, I tried to fit mining lasers. It couldn't fit. You can't fit mining lasers on the Rorqual. I tried to fit other weapons. The game didn't let me. So, in the end, I was basically stuck with only the remote boosters, and not really sure if that's how it's meant to be. But I tried to fit weapons, didn't work. I tried to fit mining lasers, didn't work. So you can't fit
warp drive
those things on this ship, which is okay. I guess you already have crazy mining performance with the drones. I looked at the mining performance of some of the other ships. I think the Rorqual has like the double performance of the Orca, and I know the Orca can also be fitted for PvP. That is one of my next ideas that I will do. A battle Orca. That's going to be fun. Okay, let's enter the special mode. Now the special mode, I would say, will look the same, although I kind of wish that the other module gave the ship a different look, but it looks the same. Those flames that are coming out of the ship look awesome. I mean, they did a fantastic job with the graphics. I can't deny that they did a fantastic job with the graphics of this game. So here you can take a look at the stats again. It does have some very nice mining stats, mining form and burst stats, which that's what makes me believe that this one is meant to be used more in a fleet environment. But again, it's a Rorqual. It shouldn't really be a solo ship to begin with, so both of these modules are going to be very interesting for a fleet. And there's definitely a improvement in the command burst and that remote shield booster. Now you can actually fit the large ones, but I have the capital ones. And I think, depending on the situation, both large and capital remote boosters are fine, but I feel like since this is a capital ship, it should have the capital boosters. And here I locked on the asteroids again because I forgot that the drones basically mine everything in the vicinity. Now, since you have like 50-kilometer range, you should position yourself so that you can cover the whole belt or the special belts. I think most Rorquals are mining the special sites, the special belts, the Nihilus sites where the ship can fit. There is definitely a very special and unique place for this ship. Although I don't know how much it costs. I think it costs like 100 billion. I have seen some kills of a Rorqual and they were quite expensive. I believe their price went down over time. Might be wrong though. So that's what I believe. That's how much this ship costs, I believe. And the modules, the blue module and the red one also is quite pricey. What was it? 50 billion, something silly like that. So yeah, definitely a big risk investment on getting one of these ships, and that's why I say that these ships are mostly for big alliances, big corporations, mostly a ship that the corporate alliance builds for miners that they have in the corporate alliance. A solo effort is definitely going to be quite the feat. After all, you need so much risk to build this thing. So the mining drones perform really good, and I'm quite happy with their performance. So let's take a look at the DPS. Now I'll always carry a lot of drones. I always say that carry a lot of medium drones, light drones, carry a lot of all types of drones. Basically, you never know when you need them, and you never know when you have to replace them. So always have a whole beehive in the ship. And the drone swapping is as frustrating as ever, as expected, but that's fine. 1.4 thousand DPS, so this is much lower than the red module. The red module is very interesting. I like it a lot because of that extra DPS and extra tank. I mean, that module does kinda feel like it's turning the Rorqual into a combat ship because of the 370% extra drone damage. I mean, this thing has the potential to have some mind-blowing DPS, and I think the next thing that I will show you here is the DPS build. Now again, don't fit your Rorqual for DPS. I'm doing it for fun. I'm doing it because I thought it was silly. It is silly. There is no denying it. It's just silly. And although it's fun, can be hilarious, and it gives me a lot of ideas. For example, if I ever get my hands on one of these ships, then I might actually legitimately use it for PvP. That would be fun. Yeah, I think that would be actually hilarious. So yeah, I already told you I like to do crazy things. So the Rorqual is not going to be spared. After all, this is a very unique and a very interesting ship. Okay, let's wait for the hatch to... Actually, you can technically warp before the animations are done, which is kinda interesting. Yeah, the ship is in warp and the animations are still ongoing. Okay. And now, the DPS build. 1,200 DPS. Now something is... Oh, I know what's missing. The drone bomb implant is missing. So that's the next thing that I will change. So I have quad amplifiers, the special module, dual adapters, and one booster. Although I also thought about a passive tank, but since this ship already has a bonus on boosters, then I have decided to keep the booster. The drone performance, the drone stats look very interesting. Let's undock. I already have the drone bombs installed. That was a very smooth transition again. What's up with me and having the smooth transitions? That's definitely unlike me. Usually my transitions are kind of clumsy. In any case, let's readjust the modules the way I like them. It's so weird to have a ship like this. This is so weird, but I love it. It's hilarious. Okay, this is the layout that I think it's acceptable. Yeah, this looks nice. Okay. Let's take a look at the implant. So the drone bombs, the most overpowered and most broken implant in the game. Now I have the remote reload, which I'll be using for PvE very soon. Although for PvP, I would say don't go with the remote reload. Go with the hard point reactivation delay. That way you get maximum possible DPS out of the drum bombs. So 1,300 DPS. Now the DPS is a little bit higher because of the change that I done in the implant. The build remains the same. I have a skirmish command boost that is going to help out a lot for your fleet mates. The range is still 50 kilometers, which is fine. Skirmish boost increases the weapon's scram range. The rigs are the same rigs that I showed you before, works the same way with the cheap or the more expensive option. Now I also looked at the rigs to find if there is a capital DPS rig for the drones, but unfortunately that doesn't exist. So the only way, one of the only things that you can install on in the combat rigs is the tank, or yeah, basically that's about it. The tank is the only thing that you can install on the Rorqual. And now I have swapped the attributes, and now have maximum possible DPS, which is 300%. So 370% from that module, from the special mode, and another 300% from the implant. Yeah, this is getting a little bit ridiculous, and this is not even counting the drone damage amplifiers that will increase the DPS even more. So let's undock and let's see how much DPS the Rorqual can get. And yes, a industrial ship with DPS. You know you came to the right place if you hear those words. Okay, joke aside, 1,300 DPS. Well, this is actually triple now, about 3,940 DPS with the bombs. And now on the special mode, when the special mode is active, 3,546.27 with the drone bombs. That is about 9,900 DPS, almost 10,000 DPS. And this is without the drone damage amplifiers. With the one amplifier active, 4,068. or 12,000 DPS. With the second one, 4.8 thousand DPS, or about 13,000 DPS. 5.3 thousand, or about 15,000 DPS. And with all 4 bombs active, with all the amplifiers active, 5,598 DPS, which is about 16,600 DPS. Yeah, this is a lot of DPS. It has more DPS than a DPS. I'll think it has about the same DPS as the Nestor, although the Nestor has a little bit more. The Nestor has 18,000 DPS with the drone bombs. Well, 8.2 kilometers per second is the drone velocity. I don't know what to say. I mean, this is hilarious. I love it. A battle Rorqual, and those flames look menacing now. You know, it's fun because this is so weird, but it will work because this thing has tank. This thing has a tank. It has DPS. It's a little bit clumsy to run with the stationary mode, but it's crazy how good it looks. And oh, I will show you how it works. Don't worry. And now with the blue module, now the DPS is a bit lower, and for combat, I would say the red module seems to be a bit better. And when I say a bit better, I mean you basically get like plus 150% extra DPS. This one has 150% bonus, 125%, while the other one has 370%. So the red module is definitely the way to go for DPS. 105% extra drone DPS. So yeah, the red module is definitely the way to go for the extra DPS. But if you don't have the red module, this one also gives you some decent DPS. 1992.13 DPS. With the bombs, that's about 6,000 DPS when the bombs effect kick in, basically triples your DPS, which is still, I would say, really solid. With one damage mod, 2.4 thousand. With the second damage mod, 2.8 thousand, so about 9,000 DPS. With third one, 3,172, 9.5 thousand DPS. And with the last one, 9,999 DPS, or if you count the 0.53, it's just above 10,000 DPS with the blue module, which honestly is still good, but the red module pushes about 60% more total DPS with the drone bombs. So very interesting thing. You can do a build like this with a capacitor battery with both modules, but you will sacrifice a little bit of DPS. And you can also do something like this with dual boosters. I mean, there is honestly a lot of ways on how you can build this thing. Now, it's one thing to look at the numbers on paper, but a whole different game when we put that fit to the test. So, on paper, and I know this sounds extremely weird to say, but on paper, the Rorqual is a pretty good combat ship. It has some good tank, it has some phenomenal DPS. Now, not going to be, good for, let's say, if you want to fight don't fight capital ships with a Rorqual. At best, a battleship, a battlecruiser, that's what the Rorqual is designed to defend against. A dreadnought, a carrier, will easily overwhelm the Rorqual despite having so much
Warp
DPS.
drive active.
The other capital, the actual combat capital ships are definitely going to be outperforming the Rorqual a lot. Now the tank on this thing is pretty solid. It's pretty tanky with the special modes, so it's not as tanky as a Dreadnought, let's say, but you can get some very nice tank out of it. The tank it feels a bit better than the tank on carriers, that's for sure. It feels better than a carrier tank, but definitely not as good as a Dreadnought tank. It's somewhere in between. Well then, here we are in a bit more serious mission.
We're under
Look
attack.
at those flames spitting out of the ship. This Rorqual is out
We're
for
under
blood.
attack. We're being warp scrambled.
Bombs are active, and yeah, the drones with the recent balance, with the recent new skills, the large drones can hit small targets really well now. That wasn't the case like always. There was a time when the large drones were pretty bad against smaller targets, but now they're actually really solid. I have set my orbit to be about 5 kilometers, so about 4 or 5 kilometers should be the optimal range for these drones. And well, as you can see, the clear time so far appears to be, good. When I say good, the DPS and the damage that the Rorqual is doing is comparable to the damage that the Nestor was pushing out, comparable to the damage the Rattlesnake was pushing out. Which means you can technically expect the same clear time. Now, I know, this is a mining ship, a 100 billion ISK mining ship. You should definitely not be doing this with your ship. Don't yeet your Rorqual into low-sec storylines or things like that. It's hilarious to think that it can do them easily, but just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. Because if someone spots a Rorqual in low-sec, that's going to get jumped very quickly. Although you can technically defend yourself very easily, because most don't really know how to tackle ships. So yeah, still just don't eat your Rorqual in low-sec, please. That's going to be hilarious if I see a Rorqual kill in low-sec doing a storyline mission. That would be the most hilarious thing that I would see. Now, someone mentioned a bait Rorqual. No, actually, for a bait, it might be a very interesting idea. I mean, we have a bait Orca, we have a bait Venture, there's a bait Covetor, there's all sorts of bait mining ships, and I think the Rorqual can do the same thing, although it's much more expensive. But if I were to use a Rorqual as a bait, it would probably be a bait for a big fleet. So you want to have a big response fleet, and in the case where a Rorqual is actually being used for a bait, it's most likely going to be fitted for maximum tank, because you want to live as you want to last for as long as possible. My apologies, I got a little bit distracted there on Discord. So and I made a wrong chat. Hold a second. I forgot how to type on a keyboard. Okay. My apologies for the weird delay. So the tank so far is holding well. The boosters, I would say they're okay. Again, not as I would say impactful, or not as strong as the boosters on the dreadnoughts, but it still has that kick to it. And now I know my build here is a little bit more for DPS. I mean, my apologies, my build is more for tank, and doesn't have any shield booster performance rigs. I don't have any general units for shield boosters, so this is basically one of the lowest values that you can find on the shield booster. And the numbers can be, I would say, improved by about 50%. So I currently boost about 33,000 hit points per cycle. With a different build that has a more active tank in mind, you can easily get that up to, I would say, 45, 50, perhaps even 50,000, which, you know, is pretty close to the dreadnoughts in terms of how much shield it can recover. So the Rorqual definitely is a tanky ship. Now it doesn't have a lot of medium slots, which is to be expected. It doesn't have a lot of high slots, and the high slots on this thing are, I would say, mostly useless. Well, mostly useless for combat, but very useful when you are in a fleet where you have to repair the ship, the shield of your fleet members. And perhaps when they add rats in the asteroid belts, then the remote repair is actually going to be useful. So I think there is going to be a time where the Rorqual is going to shine even more, especially after they add the rats spawning in belts, which I think is actually coming. So yeah, mining will be a bit more exciting when it happens. It is a thing in EVE Online, and the next month looks really good for a lot of reasons. I'm mostly excited for the new boats. They did mention something about completing the tech tree with the missing ships. Does that mean that I'm finally going to get a Vagabond? Well, I mean, they said it, so yeah, I'm definitely going to be excited for the EVE Online Tier 2 ships. So yeah, overall, very interesting things are up ahead, and I'll definitely be flying all of the new ships. That's my duty at this moment, because no one else will do it. Well, I'll do it. So yeah. Well, this thing so far been performing really well. Unironically satisfied with the DPS output on the Rorqual. I know I'm probably the first one to yeet a Rorqual in a low sec mission, but yeah, it is what I do. I like I said before, I like to do silly things, and I like to create a silly build that ends up working just the way I want it to work. And yeah, on a industrial ship, I managed to pull it off. Now the next thing that I'll pull off, well, I know some of my friends did pull it off before me, but I'll try to do something similar with the Orca. The Orca much more affordable and definitely a better bait, that's for sure. Will be interesting to see how the DPS on that thing will look. I expect similar DPS to the Rorqual, but I guess we will find that out in the next couple days. I also have to finish up with the missile ships. I have a lot of ships that I want to cover, and the Rorqual is just the first one. Well, not the first one, but just one of many ships that I have to cover in this April balance patch. So technically the Rorqual got buffed in the balance patch since the drones were buffed. All drone boats, all ships that use drones as their primary weapon have received about the same buff. Some of them have
Warp drive active.
have more of the buff because of the skills of the bonuses, some of them less, but overall all of the drone boats have been vastly improved. So with that being said, hope that you guys have enjoyed this little crazy ride with the Rorqual. This thing, well, as expected. I mean, it was expected, kind of obvious with the skill bonuses, with the drones and stuff. Kind of expected that this thing will have some crazy DPS, and I really enjoyed flying it. Me enjoying an industrial ship, yeah, that's a first for sure, but yeah, doesn't have to be a industrial ship in my hands to be a DPS ship. So with that being said, if you guys want to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and I'll see you next time.